Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am kicking it back with my throwback, my buddy, my friend, my pal, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on?
I got this in the mail yesterday.
What do we got? Ooh, a little ducky, terrible towel ducky.
He gets to be the little brother of Duck Troy over here.
No, I was going to say, man, you got all those signatures on that cap. That's a throwback. That's like a Reebok cap. That was one year I did not get them, and I'm like the king of caps over here.
Yeah, this was a as we were talking, doing our little pre-show get together, this was I need a hat because my hair is a mess. And this was the one that I had on top of one of the helmets up there. So it was what it was available. I wouldn't normally wear this hat.
I know. Well, I won't keep you too long with that. I won't keep anyone too long with this. We could get right down to it. We've got some fervor. You know what? I didn't think there was going to be a lot of pitchforks and torches with this 53-man cutdown, and yet somehow people still got to be displeased, unhappy, and whatnot. There wasn't a lot of surprises. I mean, we still didn't get it perfect, but I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head. There were maybe just a handful of names at the bottom of the roster, either direction, that, a little bit of wiggle room here or there. I think the most surprising a day early was probably the punter conversation.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even that surprising because we had felt not Presley Harvin, but they've been trying to get a guy since Presley Harvin. So Corliss Waitman makes the team, and maybe there's something to be said about he held for Chris Boswell last year, et cetera, et cetera. There's just maybe more consistency there than Cameron Johnston, who missed almost all of last season.
Yeah, he's younger, probably more athletic. The bottom line is like they both had a good, solid preseason, and I'm sure Cameron Johnston will find work someplace. I think Corliss Waitman just won the job out, and not going and seeing every practice. I mean, you saw more of him than I did by going to some of the camp. He just did a better job and impressed the coaches a little more, so he got it. We knew it was close because we knew they both had a good camp. We leaned towards Cameron Johnston simply because he was a big free agent signing from last year, and you don't really expect him to lose his position because he got hurt. But if he got outperformed, he got outperformed.
I'm not even sure that he got outperformed so much that maybe it was just the money, and it's not even that much money.
Possible.
But is he, that much more? I'm looking up what he was. I mean, I'm pretty sure Corliss Waitman is near the bottom of the charts there, but terminated. It was 3 years, $9 million. I think he was paid on the cap only $2 million of that deal, so they get out from underneath that. They do have some dead money in the next two seasons, this season and next, about $1 million a piece. But Waitman is, he's making about $1 million. He's probably at this point, I'm wondering if he's actually a tenured player in the NFL too. I'm not sure if he's had 4 full seasons or enough games. So you got to play about 8 or 9 games, half the season, to be that tenured player. And he was close. I'm going to say that much. So let's see, base salary, he's at 1.1 right now, so probably a little bit above that. But he did play for the Denver Broncos too. He played half of the season last year with the Steelers. It's actually his third go round with the Steelers. But do you know where things may have gone south or gone a little rotten for Cameron Johnston? You see him here wearing number 5.
Jalen Ramsey's number.
Yeah.
Gotta get rid of him. That's it. Jalen Ramsey says you're out. It's all Jalen Ramsey's fault. Cameron Johnston, you're out. You won't sell me your number, you bastard.
Yeah, and I don't think there was a lot of Johnston jerseys flying around that Ramsey would have had to buy out. So, but whenever you have those dual numbers, we always kind of joke that maybe, just maybe, one of those guys is not going to make like the final cut, right? So speaking of wide receiver room, and we had one, the coach Zach Megler is still sitting around in the back rooms. He's like, hey, I'm gonna pat myself on the back because I nailed it. Robert Woods, because he was just being utilized in such an odd way this preseason. It was like, does the old guy still have it? Does he have any fire to him, or are they just testing him by playing late in games? And I know you're not a big fan of watching that final preseason game, but against the Panthers, we had a few players like that were playing pretty late or didn't play at all in one case, right? So Woods, odd man out. There was a number of the Steelers receivers, and we'll go through some of the positional breakdowns with the wide receiver room, but they kept 5, and Scotty Miller stole his lunch money. That's all. Yeah, Scotty Miller came up and stole his lunch money, and Robert Woods was out. Even with the professor of football, Zach Meckler, saying that, we had hinted that could be a possibility, and it just turned out that way. Like I said, Scotty Miller stole his lunch money. Yeah, veteran player. We thought he could play maybe some special teams roles with the Steelers, but just not there. Scotty Miller, Ben Skowronek, guys who do play some special teams. They only have 5 wide receivers, and some people are talking about whether or not they have enough there at that position. Let's boomerang back around that later and stick with some of the notable names. James Pierre, maybe not so notable because Pierre actually wasn't on this team at the same time last season and then was added due to injuries, and that's somebody we'll talk about in a second too. Someone that's oft injured and why Pierre was brought back. They know he's on speed dial on the bat phone or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, is he even a practice squad guy? He's somebody you could add that knows at least Danny Smith and knows the defense with Terrell Austin, knows the special teams, et cetera, et cetera. But Beanie Bishop was the one that everybody was crying foul over, and we said Beanie was on the way out more than likely. You said it's because he picked Aaron Rodgers twice last year, and Rodgers is doing the Ramsey thing, pulling his vet card and saying no. Why.
He's out.
Yeah,
that's what happened. But I'm calling it right now. Nope. I was in the room. Aaron went up to Mike. He said, "Look, you got to get rid of that little Bishop beanie baby guy. Get rid of that guy. He cut me. He annoyed me." That's not it, obviously. But here's the reason. I wanted to say this. The reason people are all bent out of shape about this, right, is because he picked off Aaron Rodgers twice, because he happened to be the right guy in the right place, and had a couple splash plays last year, and we fall in love with these undrafted kind of guys who seem to make good, and we forget all of the play that wasn't good that also went along with that. He was out of position a million other times. He could have even gotten some of those picks because he was out of position for what he was actually supposed to be doing. Look, I don't wish Beanie any ill will, and I'm pretty sure they're going to put him on practice squad. I think we read that, right?
Yeah, he's back already. That's so somebody threw that out there.
Don't lose your stuff over a guy who really wasn't making a huge difference.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy, 5'10", $180-ish or whatever. Lost his job, unfortunately. Numbers game with Jalen Ramsey. I know there were some other commenters. I think part of the fervor comes from, he's from West Virginia University. There's a lot of Mountaineers fans in Steeler Nation due to the proximity. So that's another one, for as much as we talk about some of the Ohio State guys, whenever there's a West Virginia guy like Zach Frazier or, Beanie Bishop, or you get a pick guy on the team like James Conner, sells a ton of jerseys, right? So there's a lot of local flavor there still. Let's move along before we come back to the corners, because we know Bishop is going to be back, but one guy there's no word on just yet is DeMarvin Leal. And we had talked about Leal being a possible casualty, and since we last talked, Brian, it became more and more obvious to me watching the game on Thursday. He was still in there, and he was playing as an edge. And that just signaled to me that they didn't really know what they could get out of him or what they could do with him. This was kind of the last hurrah. He played very late into that game, along with some other players. And I said, well, that did, like Beanie Bishop not playing at all was one thing. Leal playing as much as he did and in maybe a different position, jack of all trades, master of none, doesn't always work with the NFL. He'll probably find work somewhere else, and maybe if he goes into a 4-3, maybe he's better suited for that, but he just did not fit in the Steelers schemes.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add to that.
And one other guy, and it was tough, and this is one of the reasons why he's probably not here, is trying to find a picture of Mark Robinson making a play. As much as like when he does hit, and we had high expectations, he was a developmental guy, he was a project, and he was also on the bubble. Maybe he's somebody they bring back. Tight end JJ Galbraith. There was 4 tight ends that made this roster, and then of course with the wide receivers, Brandon Johnson, I think waived injury settlement type thing, but he could be re-signed here in the near future. There's a lot of funky things that could happen with the various designations and when it comes to these roster moves, right? And one of those is Cory Trice, and they had changed the rules. I'd forgotten about this, and actually the Detroit Lions were trying to get this changed even further, because you could still only have up to, I believe, 90 players that are signed total for an entire season. So with all the injuries that they had, they were bucking up against that number. You could only bring 8 total players back from IR, and I believe now you could do 2 without having to do. We were saying Howard had to make the 53 and then get reverted over to IR, and that would make more sense than maybe keeping 4 quarterbacks, which we'll talk about in a second. But you could have 2 players that just go straight to that designation, could come back in 4 weeks. For anybody else, like Dean Lowry's on IR, Donald Parham, tight end, on IR, season's over. And pup list guys are kind of in that same, there's like another reserve category label, but Cory Trice doesn't fall underneath that category because he had gotten hurt at Friday Night Lights. He had actually practiced in training camp, just didn't participate in any of the preseason games, much similar to Will Howard in that same situation as well. They could have done 2, but they will still count. Those 2 will count against the total 8 that come back during the year. So if you don't need to make that move, you don't want to make that move, and God willing, the Steelers don't have to use 8 injury designations in a year for guys that need to come back. So that's a tough one. People were like, why did they keep Trice but not Beanie Bishop? They could just stash guys on injured reserve. Look, if they could do that, don't you think every team in the NFL would do that? They would have 90 guys on their roster, and then, we could bring this guy back in 4 weeks whenever we might need him. And, that they're not allowed to practice. There's certain things that they're not permitted to do as far as a team, and it prohibits your development. And it's the same thing with like the inactives on game days, right? You only have so many... like 5 guys that don't get a helmet or whatever, because another team might have 3 guys that are hurt, and then it's an advantage. Like the balance, the scales are tipped. One team has 2 more healthy players than the other. That gives you some kind of competitive advantage with that imbalance. So there's a lot of this stuff, a lot of these maneuvers and trying to keep track of all of them and what they mean and how they work. Apologies if we had gotten part of that wrong, but it wasn't. It was the previous year. It was still like that. And I'm even old enough to remember, Brian, where Marquise Pouncey got hurt and couldn't come back at all. He got hurt in that preseason game against Green Bay Packers. I'm not sure the Steelers have played an afternoon preseason game since then. And if you remember, Jordy Nelson got hurt for the season, was out for the year in that same game. It was catastrophic. So we've got more relaxed rules with practice squads. Only had like 8 players then, maybe 10, and you had to release guys. What was it? Ross Ventrone, like the mini. People would always mistake him for Troy Polamalu. That guy got released by the Steelers and Patriots in upwards of about 45 times. I think he's the NFL record. And there's one other NFL record we should talk about before we get to the next segment. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. The Steelers will have a different starting quarterback for their 4th straight year. One of those guys just got traded from the Cleveland Browns. And now he's going over to the Vegas
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, if Kenny moves one more time via trade, he will have an NFL record, I believe. He's up there with a few other players.
There you go.
Sam Howell, your guy in the same category too. I know.
Yeah.
It's like calling Neil. What's his name?
Look,
Your guy.
I don't know that I ever would have compared Kenny Pickett to Sam Howell, who I didn't like. But at the same time, I also didn't really ever like Kenny Pickett. There was a couple of times where he fooled me, but, you know, it is what it is. There's a reason that was considered a bad draft class for quarterbacks.
Yeah, it was. Desmond Ridder on his way out, too, just got cut also. Was that the Saints? Where's he at last? I think with the Saints. So,
yeah, that Spencer Rattler down there in New Orleans.
Man, that situation's just begging for them to, get Archie Manning's grandkid is where you're looking there. A little bit of legacy maybe, and NFL might be setting it up that way. Who knows? Although the draft in Pittsburgh would also hint that maybe there's some big things hinted. If you think it's all scripted and it's all, WWE style in the NFL, there's some things that kind of make you go, They installed a turf field for the draft somewhere like over on the North Shore there by Acrisure Stadium too, and it's supposed to be used for the draft. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to set up the stage, where they're going to put all these people, because if you're going to break records, which is what they're thinking, I mean, Detroit was bursting at the seams, and so was Nashville, and I think they're better set up for that, not being as with the rivers
stadium,
and everything.
That's all right there in the rivers. Yeah, stage. I mean, what is it?
Stage
AE
roads. Stage AE.
I mean, you're gonna. I don't know how much. Man, I don't know. Maybe they clear out those two front lots and put it right in front of the stadium somehow. I don't know.
But they put the garage. They put that garage smack dab in the middle now too. So that's that's rough. They got the gold garage, which a lot of people were complaining about with tailgating. So
is that new? Because I haven't seen that.
Newer, something. So you don't come that way usually when you come in. So
I come over the bridge. So.
Yeah, just take a look over your right when you come in for the home opener. But all right, let's hit over to some of the highlights that on this roster. The quarterbacks, there's 4 of them. There has not been a corresponding move. You know what? I'm going to look because we've been getting bitten by the Twitter machine and the breaking news. So let's see if there's anything else that we may have missed. The Steelers, according to Mark Cabulli, have not claimed anyone off of waivers, and the more recent news that we have besides Beanie Bishop is Robert Woods plans to sign with the practice squad. So other teams have shown, according to Tom Pelissero, it says some other teams have showed interest in Woods before the cutdown, so it could be a temporary situation. So we're trying to stay on top of it. It's a very fluid situation, especially with some of the guys on the bottom part of this roster. We'll see if they keep 4. I don't think. And I'm trying to think of a time now. They've had more than 4 play in a season. Obviously, the year Ben popped his elbow, you had Josh Dobbs had made the team, and then he got traded, and then they brought Duck Hodges in, and they brought Paxton Lynch, I think, into the practice squad. Maybe even moved him up after Mason got hurt. But at the same time, simultaneously, I think the only other times I could remember, at least in recent modern NFL history, you got 2010. Which Ben was technically not on the 53, he was suspended. And you had Byron Leftwich, who got hurt, which led way to Dennis Dixon, who got hurt, which led way to Charlie Batch, who then played. Then Ben came back. Then Ben sat out, and Byron Leftwich ends up starting the final game of the year at the Cleveland Browns, where they absolutely just throttled Cleveland, and I believe that was Eric Mangini's last game as the head coach. It was him or Cornell, but I think it was Mangini, and he got shown the door immediately thereafter as part of that lackluster performance on his team's behalf. But that would have been the 4 you would have had there. But back in 1995, we're going back, and you had He Who Shall Not Be Named. I mentioned his first name, Neal. You had Mike Tomczak.
That's too much. Go back, delete that. Can't even name that much. Nope.
Okay. He Who Shall Not Be Named. He wore 14. Yeah. And you had Mike Tomczak, Jim Miller, And then technically, you had a quarterback out of Colorado that was listed as a wide receiver, but there were 4 quarterbacks, and that was a 1/ Cordell Stewart. Yes. So it's not very common that you have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, and the Steelers didn't want to expose anyone. I'm sure they're getting phone calls. Omar Khan is fielding some trade talk, more than likely, over this group. So we'll see how this moves forward. Jerry Dulac, one of the beat reporters, had suggested that Howard would maybe go on IR. But as we had said, you don't want him to... He won't be able to practice. And there aren't enough reps to go around even for backup quarterbacks, let alone having 4 of them. So I don't know how they're going to manage this, but I surmise something happens in the next week that either maybe Skylar Thompson can have a deep sigh of relief that he's on the team for at least 4 weeks. Maybe he gets traded. You never know. Maybe my dude Mason Rudolph gets traded. You never know. So, but I think Rudolph has more experience. And the people that are talking about Rudolph and taking Thompson over, I'm like, okay, if you put Thompson in the same situation as Rudolph, he probably throws that same interception. I mean, it's to Keshawn Williams. Who even knows if he ran the right route, look back, whatever he was supposed to do. And it did look like maybe some heavy coverage too. So I don't know who to blame. We don't know who the plays are going to. Speaking of those wide receivers, we mentioned Scotty Miller. Ben Skoranek ended up making that group. There's only 5 of those guys. A slew of linebackers, including some rookies. Jack Sawyer and Carson Bruener. Carson Bruener thought he showed enough. Thought he showed some special teams prowess. Here he is as one of the later round picks, ends up making the roster over Mark Robinson. So they did not keep 10 linebackers, Brian. Off our notes too, or not on our notes, was Dylan Cook, who had been off again, on again. That's why they brought Pete in. When Broderick Jones got dinged a little bit in camp, I saw Cook getting cooked. And it was just, I think it was time. Maybe he'll be on the practice squad again, maybe in the future. Don't know. We'll see how that shakes out. And then your defensive backs. This was the one that was the controversy, right? Because Brandon Echols makes the team over Beanie Bishop, but he's about the same size guy, but he has far more starting experience in the National Football League, particularly with the New York Jets. He could also play in the slot, which means guess who he's the chief backup to? Jalen Ramsey. Got to be able to do everything. So he offers them the flexibility should something happen with Ramsey, that they don't have to change things up too much. If it's Bishop, we talk about this with the offensive line all the time. You don't want to weaken 2 positions of the 5 because you need to move people around. You want to keep those 4 guys, 5 guys. You want to keep everybody locked in their spots as much as possible. And that's exactly where we're at with Echols making a team. But the one that was interesting to me was Dante Kent. Man, I get some guys on Twitter, they're like a dog with a bone. And he's like, well, they just returned to practice. Yeah, literally yesterday returning to practice. Like, the guy had been hurt. You know, oh, he returned to practice, he's safe to make the team. Who says that type of stuff? You know what I mean? Especially for a guy that's 6th, 7th round draft pick who hadn't played in the entire preseason. Now, I think part of that might be punt return duties. So
yeah, I was wondering about that.
I was wondering about that too. So we'll see if he's good to go for week 1. It's got to be the reason that he's on this final, what do you want to say, final 53-man roster. So
put that in air quotes, final 53-man roster.
Yeah, it'll float around. It's going to float around quite a bit. Just looking at that, the full list here, they put them in alphabetical order. And let me see if we can blow through these kind of quick. We kind of went there. The running backs, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson, Jalen Warren. We'd already mentioned the quarterbacks. The wide receivers, we didn't mention it was, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, and then Roman Wilson also making this. I need to move this into a position where we could let's see the full graphic. There we go. Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, and then Connor Hayward, who's also listed as a fullback here too. That's why Connor's designation is why they couldn't fit the full graphic or fit it in all one graphic. They had to split up the offense because he had to be tight end / fullback with these large headers. And then you've got your offensive linemen, Kelvin Anderson, Spencer Anderson, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Broderick Jones, Ryan McCullum, backup center, Mason McCormick, Andres Pete, probably your swing tackle, and Isaac Sayamalo. So Not a bunch of surprises there other than, let's see, they have 9 offensive linemen, which I wasn't sure that they were going to carry. So Calvin Anderson ends up making it. I would also believe that he's probably near the bottom of that 53 also. We get to some of our other positional takeaways here. We get into the defensive line: Keanu Benton, Wyatt Black, Daniel Akowaway, Derek Harmon, Cam Hayward, Logan Lee, Isaiah Loudermilk, and Azizi Otameo. So a couple of surprises here, I think, with these ones, because we weren't sure about Logan Lee, Equale, and my other gentleman here, EO, his initials that I cannot properly say his name, so I'm just not going to attempt it again.
I would never even try. Just forget.
I'm not going to try. I'm going to have to find one of those pronunciation charts. Yeah.
Get his number. Everybody talks by numbers anyway. It's 7, it's 97. I'm talking about 90. Just figure out what his number is, and we'll just call him that from now on.
72, which then
72 made the team.
Yeah,
good for you, 72.
You would not
happy for you.
You would have been like, who the hell's 72? 78 stands out, however. And then our full group of linebackers, which include the inside and outside backers. No movement on Cole Holcomb. He's there. Safe and sound. So Carson, Bruener, Malik Harrison, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, Cole Holcomb, Patrick Queen, Jack Sawyer, TJ Watt, and Peyton Wilson. Maybe one of the more loaded or potent groups that I've seen overall in very many years of covering the Steelers. I'm very impressed with them. Yeah, definitely. Keep knocking on it. And then our DBs, Brandon Eccles, Deshaun Elliott, Dante Kent, Miles Killebrew, Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, and Juan Thornhill. So the big one here is he got 3 safeties. So I'm thinking Ramsey. Yeah, Ramsey's going to be playing some safety, but it's Miles.
That's my guess.
Miles Killebrew is the only guy besides Elliott and Thornhill that's a designated safety. So does Chuck Clark come back? I felt like Chuck Clark was probably someone that was like a catch and release kind of candidate, right?
Well, and it could happen, right? Let's say that they don't trade Skylar Thompson and they put Will Howard on IR down the road. All right, now a position opens up and they could bring Chuck Clark back in. There's as I said, when we talk about this is the final 53, it's the final 53. I would bet that on game day on Sunday that this isn't the final 53.
No, I don't think so either. And I do have some concerns here that Miles Killebrew is a special teams guy. He's not. Yeah. He's there for special teams. He's not really a safety. Yeah. Special teamers: Chris Boswell, Christian Kuntz, and then Corliss Waitman. Corliss Waitman's been great, and he's left. Did I mention that earlier? Being left-footed, that may have been something that also kind of may have been enamored with Danny Smith and the coaching staff, because it's different. It's like having a left-handed quarterback too. There's just teams have to prepare a little bit different for it. Any wrinkle, any edge these teams could get, they're going to take it. So it no question, may not even be a factor. Who knows? We thought that the big guy that was going to go out there and knock heads, Presley Harvin, a few years ago, Ray Guy winner, and just it didn't work out there either. So
that was our big fat punter was just a big fat waste of time.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing against him really, but I mean, Waitman. He had a very solid season. Okay. Someone somewhere, it might have been Ray Fittipaldo, maybe, that was talking about this. I think these may be some high marks for the Steelers as a franchise. He had punted 65 times. He had 3,105 yards. It was a 46.4 average, 41.7 net, 27 of those in the 20, 8 inside the 10. I thought Johnston still looked really good. It was that close, though. I will say that much from watching them. It was like, and I think they were both fairly consistent. I think it just came down to maybe money. I don't know. Money, and maybe there's still
money and age. Yeah.
Age and maybe some health. There may be some health concerns there too. You never know. Yeah. And then the consistency of the kicking game, left-footed, whatever. So that's pretty much the prognosis on that. What's next for everything, Brian? Well, I mentioned Keshawn Williams. He's going to the practice squad too, as that hits the wire here as we are on air. But like you said, this could keep going. I do think that there is a corresponding safety move. I don't think that they could go in with just 3 safeties on paper. We'll see if
I agree.
Yeah, we'll see if it's something like where Dante Kent maybe gets moved. I don't know. I really don't know. You would think that they would have used one of those designations like they did on Trice. This doesn't mean that Trice makes the roster either. He's around. He's got to get healthy. How long does that take? Is he eligible in the 4-week window? Is he eligible in 6 weeks? Is he eligible, in November? Does he get released with some type of settlement or something like that in the interim? If they do activate him, they got the 21 days. He practices. Does he just outright get released or cut? Who are they moving as this roster continues to change and evolve? Where do they have a luxury at? They have extra offensive linemen. They need at least 8, I believe, in order to have that call up from the practice squad. So you can still see Robert Woods, called up to the active roster for game day. Maybe Beanie Bishop. So, it's good to still have some of these guys in the fold. We'll see who else ends up getting signed to this practice squad in the coming days. The injury thing with Brandon Johnson, I was like, he was on the roster last year, but they're going to have to add maybe another wide receiver, maybe a running back like a Trey Sermon. I guess Williams just got signed with Woods, so that might be it. Maybe just 2. I don't know. Do they keep another kicker or punter? I was wondering what happens with Ben Sauls. I thought he had a pretty good preseason. So there's still a lot of questions that are out there on how they have to structure their practice squad to meet the needs of the depth for that depth chart at each position, and then also just get through the various practices. So
all true. So now, considering that we're really 2 weekends away, right?
Mm-hmm. Can't wait.
2 weekends away before the first official kickoff game. But there is something coming up. And we're down at the end of the show. So I need to ask you, what are you thinking about Saturday?
Oh, geez. Oh, you're talking about the Buckeyes.
Yeah. So the Ohio State doesn't normally open the season with a game of this magnitude.
No, Texas got Texas coming in.
You got to. Hey, there's you go. Our little boy Arch is gonna come in and maybe wreck our Buckeyes. I'm gonna be annoyed. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm interested what you think. What's the scuttlebutt in the great state of Ohio about this game?
Ohio State's pretty entitled, I would think. If they lose this, it's going to be fire Ryan Day and the whole world's going to collapse, just like it was against, that university up north last season. I was looking at that and I was like, man, if I could squeak out there. The weather is gorgeous right now for football season. You got you're in the 70s for August, but man, there's going to be easily 100,000 people there. I don't know how you maneuver. You probably have to park 20 miles away
forget
to get to
even
that game.
We think it's bad to buy, NFL tickets, and I told you this before.
Yeah.
Buying college tickets, forget about it. The tickets to the Texas game for crappy seats are like $1,000 a seat.
Yeah, you're in whatever deck that's all the way up and behind the marching band.
I've gone to tons of Ohio State games, and I know what the big what the horseshoe is like. But I haven't gone in years, and I don't think I'm ever going again because it's absurd. My brother, who lives in Columbus, the other brother, not the one that was dropped on his head, actually this is the one that was dropped on his head and roots for the Bengals. The one that lives in Jersey roots for the Eagles.
Also dropped on his head.
Well, no, he's just a front runner. He didn't care anything about sports until he moved out here, and then all of a sudden now he's like all Philadelphia all the time. Whatever, I don't care. He's allowed. But my brother that's out there in Columbus, he said that the way that you can go is you just it's harder to scalp tickets than it used to be. But if you go and show up at the stadium, you'll find somebody who'll get you in for less money.
I'm sure of it. Everything's gone digital, which I don't hate that, because whenever there was somebody trying to hawk tickets now in Pittsburgh, they got like a lanyard and a credential on and everything, and we know that they are the that they're licensed, or at least recognized to be able to sell tickets, right? But when they're flashing around something they printed off their computer at home, like I don't feel very confident about buying that, So that's always good.
I got this piece of paper. Can I come in? No, you can't come in. I'm sorry, that's a counterfeit.
And there's some closing business for us there. We've got a full weekend lying ahead before you get to September 7th. With New York. So yeah, we got to get through this weekend, and it's a week from Sunday. So we're going to have another couple shows. We still got to do our AFC North predictions. Stay tuned with that, folks. And we were talking about maybe if you had some interest in some of our tips and experiences going to games, whether that be at home with the Pittsburgh Steelers at Acrisure Stadium or wherever else, including the parking disaster that is in Miami. We can share some stories about that. So hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear from us as then we get to that preview against the New York Jets in about 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, 1 week from now, 1 week from now. So I can't do the math. 10 days.
10 days from now.
10 days. But we've got some programming we can cover. So it's good to have some news, and football is back, baby. I can't be more excited about it. So thought about going to New York too, Brian, but I don't know about that one.
I'm not doing that. First of all, we're going to Ireland. Yeah. So that's Ireland. I'm going to go to the Seattle game. So I will my first ever actual home opener that I'm attending in stadium, because I usually sell home opener tickets because they get a lot of money. But I'm going to go to the Seattle game. I'm not going to go to several others, but I'm going to Seattle. So like September's crammed full, right? I don't know that I want to even try to go to New York and deal with that. So plus, the big news, because I'm, as I just mentioned, the Ohio State Texas game is on Saturday at noon. Mm-hmm. I, on the other hand, will be in Atlantic City to watch Jaws in IMAX for its 50th anniversary release.
Ooh, fancy. So
my phone, I'll be like this, not watching the fake animatronic shark and screaming at the phone.
That's your own fault.
The game will be over.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, if you booked like your seats at like 12:05 or something, that's your own fault. You only have yourself to blame.
The game will be over, but because it's a 4:00 show, but we'll be down there and I won't watch any of the game. I might listen to some of it on the radio.
Okay. Well, as we're goofing off and buying time, we got the full practice squad. So we can we could go through it. Our 2%ers are probably the only ones that are going to maybe hear that are going to hear this. Okay, so we've got Beanie Bishop, Sebastian Castro, Deshaun Jameson, James Pierre, Daryl Porter, 5 DBs. Kyler Baugh, DeMarvin Leal, back.
Yeah, there you go.
Julius Welshoff. Oh, all right. My dude. Dylan Cook, Steven Jones. Then we got, for your offensive line, and you've got 2 running backs, Lou Nichols and Trey Sermon, and J.J. Galbraith's back, tight end. 3 wide receivers, Keshawn Williams, who we mentioned earlier, along with Robert Woods, and Max Hurlman. Hey, good job, guys. So there's your 16 that are there, and it's probably going to change again tomorrow. So we'll leave you off with that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name's Joe. His name's Brian. Folks, football is back. Till next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.